Welcome back to Inside Steelers Nation on SNR. I'm Randy Slack with Matt Williamson and Dale Lolley talking about the Steelers' 45-42 defeat. I can't believe that was the final score for that game.
The over-under for that game by game time was 40.5 points.
Was it really?
Yeah.
It's a very low number for people that know, right?
I also couldn't believe that Calais Campbell nailed the score on the nose. I don't know if you saw the clip that was circulating.
I did not.
It was after they beat the Bills.
He said he was going to let up 42 points?
After they beat the Bills, they were talking about, you got to play the Steelers again. And he goes, I don't know what kind of game it's going to be. We can play any kind of game with them, whether it's 2-0 or 45-42. I think we can get it done.
Wow.
Nailed it. Calais Campbell.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Giving up 6 touchdowns.
And we were talking about this during the break. This just goes to show how important that play was. The final 2 minutes of the game against New England on December 17th. How important how everything in this season, I think, to me, came down to what happened on that series of play, just at the end. The Steelers give up the drive, but they come back and they go down and they score what appears to be the game-winning touchdown, and it's taken off the board because Jesse James can't get a handle on the football. That's how close the Steelers were to hosting the AFC Championship and hosting Tennessee. Because I could think if they play Tennessee, they win.
Yeah, and that call was really a coin flip and whatever mood that dude's in to decide. And I honestly think they made the right call on a terrible rule.
It's a bad rule, but it was the right.
Probably.
Yeah, it was right.
I could be convinced otherwise.
Yeah.
But James could have made a little bit better play.
Or don't throw the interception then in the end zone after that.
Well, that too didn't help.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean that's how close this game, this whole season was for the Steelers going back to the AFC Championship, and not.
That being said, if they host Tennessee yesterday and defense plays like they did against Jacksonville, Derrick Henry might have 200 yards, and that offense is better than Jacksonville's. Would they lose that game 45-42 also?
I don't know.
You'd rather try it.
We don't know, but I saw
but
the Steelers beat the Titans 40-17. I saw the Steelers lose to the Jaguars 30-9 in the regular season.
And you saw the Patriots dismantle Tennessee.
Yeah,
this very
and
weekend.
I saw Tennessee look like the moment was too big for them when they went to New England.
And Tennessee just fired their coach, so it wasn't like it was a
juggernaut by any
means.
Right.
It wasn't like even going to the divisional round, the organization didn't feel that. I guess the coaching staff was maybe up to par of what they wanted.
But let's not discredit how poorly the Steelers played yesterday.
100%.
Yeah.
And we've not only going back to earlier this season, we talked about as the playoff picture started to become more clear that it was you didn't know what was going to happen if you had to play the Jags. We felt like the Jags could beat anybody. Like if they had to go to New England, they could have maybe beat them, or if they had to play Baltimore in the first round, they might lose to the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know what you were going to get with the Jags, and
they were very fortunate with the draw that they got in the first round.
Right.
I
didn't
think that they would have beaten anybody other than Buffalo in that opening
Chargers or Ravens.
They wouldn't have beaten those teams. But that's not the matchup that they got.
Speaking of nice draws, Brady gets Mariota, Bortles, Foles, or Keenum to hoist in. That's pretty good.
And just to that point, New England's a 9.5-point favorite.
I think they might shut them out.
You think so?
Yes.
I could see their defense setting something up.
Yeah.
Whose defense?
Jacksonville's defense, setting their offense up.
Oh, I think that's the last defense that Brady wants to play.
Yeah.
And if I were them, I'd switch what I would do, and I'd put Jalen Ramsey on Gronk all day long and actually have an answer for him. But I think that New England might shut them out. That they won't miss tackles. They'll load the box like crazy. They won't make any mental errors. They won't be ill-prepared in any way. I think Bortles goes 7 for 18, and Fournette has no rushing yards, and I just think that offense will look bad.
I don't know that it was ill-prepared for the Jaguars.
Because Steelers are talking?
The guys that I spoke to in the locker room, and this is again, this is after the fact, and I asked guys were asked that specific question. Was it the coaching? You know, were you guys ill prepared for what you saw? And to a man, nobody said, yeah, they came out and did stuff that we hadn't seen before. We weren't expecting this. We weren't expecting that.
Right.
We didn't make the plays that we should have. Guys allowed themselves to get out of position. Guys, you know.
I guess it's a chicken or egg thing.
There was nothing exotic that you saw yesterday that the Jaguars did that they hadn't done all season. There was no razzle dazzle.
No.
You know, we're going to line up and you know, triple reverse option to a pitch back to a. There was none of that. It was just we're going to line up and run the ball and jam it down your throat. That's just getting beat.
They run very basic plays, and so I don't know if it's ill prepared or what. But I mean, I guess I labeled it ill prepared because me and you and everybody knew what they were going to do, and they did it, and you didn't stop it. Is that on the coach's preparation throughout the week, or is it execution on game day? I mean, the one play that is different than that was the fullback go off play action.
Yeah.
Nobody thought that was coming as a great play call.
Yeah.
Great job. But generally speaking, they did what you thought they were going to do, and
you didn't stop it.
And you didn't stop it. I mean, does that mean that the coaches didn't prepare you properly and you came out overwhelmed, or you just didn't play well?
Or
all the above. I don't know.
To me, it's largely on the players, and maybe people will probably say you always make that excuse.
I usually do too.
I mean, they're the ones on the field.
You're right.
I mean, that's you can come up with the best scheme in the world. Belichick's considered the greatest coach of all time. When he was in Cleveland, he didn't win that much.
No. But I also think I think he learned a lot of things from that.
I'm sure he did, but he didn't suddenly become a genius overnight. He was a good football coach before that. He was coming from working under Bill Parcells, and he schematically he didn't change dramatically from what he did. But the players are better, and
sure.
I think as good as the Steelers' defense was this year, at times they couldn't make up for the loss of Ryan Shazier.
It was gigantic. I mean, there's no question about that. It's the last guy they could afford to lose.
We said that in training camp.
Right. You'd rather lose Cam, even though Cam might be a better player.
Yeah.
Just because of who's around him. I mean, no doubt.
And the replacements that you have. I mean, you're no offense to Sean Spence, but you signed him off the street.
He's not a starting football player.
No. I mean, and they didn't have a capable replacement for him. They thought Matakevich could do the job, and I questioned that from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I could see him as a backup to Vince Williams. I couldn't see him as the backup to Ryan Shazier. You only had one of those guys, and it's not. This is not damning of the Steelers front office in any.
No, right.
Because there's only like 4 of those guys in the league.
Right.
You're not going to have more than one of those.
And if you're going to be weak somewhere, inside linebacker is a good spot to be.
Right.
I mean, generally speaking, just team building wise. No, I think the front office has done a phenomenal job. I mean, I don't think they get enough credit for building a phenomenal roster. And we'll get to this. That probably isn't going to lose much this year. Probably isn't going to lose much next year. They don't have all these looming free agents.
The only guy who's a free agent right now. Well, there's two. Le'Veon Bell, which you can control that situation, and Chris Hubbard.
Right. And who's going to leave?
Yeah.
But if you lose every year as a Chris Hubbard, you're in pretty good shape. And next year, the big free agent is Shazier, which might not even matter.
Right, yeah. So they're not in a bad spot. I think that's why Roethlisberger was quick to say yesterday that I'm coming back. The offensive line's coming back intact.
Yep.
You've still got a window here. It's
no doubt.
It's not closed. It's not anything like that. I mean, I think it's starting to inch shut. I mean, he'll be 36 next year. But I mean, Drew Brees has played well into his late 30s. Tom Brady's played well into his late 30s. I mean, guys do that now. It's not like it's the you're 38 and you're done, or 35 and you're done. They can get a couple more years. It wouldn't surprise me if they sign him for another year at the end of the
Extend him. I was thinking that too. They maybe make him a little more cap friendly this year and add a year and do those kind of moves.
Yeah.
Maybe it allows them to go sign a safety or something. Add one guy in free agency. I mean, I think they have 2 glaring needs: inside linebacker and free safety.
Yeah, and I think
that's not much to ask.
You can address those 2 positions in the draft and free agency cheaply.
Yeah, they're not.
Those are
tackle.
Those are not. Those are not high profile pickups, and you can also get those guys in second, third round, and they can be really good players because those are not high profile draft spots or draft positions.
And you would think that potentially being that you are the Steelers and how good the roster is, that you could get a veteran guy who would more likely want to come to Pittsburgh because of a chance to maybe make a Super Bowl run instead of going somewhere like the Tennessee Titans.
That's how they got Joe Hayden. That's how they got Tyson Alualu. Those guys wanted to come here because they saw a good roster in place, one that's ready to win. I mean, if you're a guy, you're 26, 27 years old and you've made money in the league and you've been playing on a bad team, why wouldn't you want to come play for a team that has a chance to win?
Sure. No, I think it's a tiebreaker. I mean, you can't lowball people.
Right.
Of course.
Right. If it's close, you're going to pick the better situation.
Sure.
That's why Cleveland's going to have a tough time rebuilding what they've got. I mean, they've got all kinds of cap space, but they're going to have to overpay.
Someone has to say, yes, I'm going to play for the Browns.
It's like it's the same situation for the Pirates. I mean, you can –
oh, boy.
You can want to spend money, but if nobody wants to come –
you get Derek Bell.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked much about the Steelers' offense. I think for the most part, everything went. There's not really a lot of complaints against that defense. 42 points is awesome. Some of the fourth down play calling was a little.
I have two complaints, and I thought the offense was great, and it was execution based too. It was our guys are just a little better than yours, and we put the ball exactly where it needs to be against great coverage. I thought Ramsey and Bouye played really well, even though the numbers don't show it. My two complaints are why all the empty. To me, that's just hubris saying we're not going to run on you. We know that we threw on you a ton last time, but we're going to try it anyways. We're not even going to give the threat of handing the ball to Le'Veon Bell, although detaching him is not a bad idea, but to be in empty that much, particularly to start the game, to me is arrogant and foolish. And my biggest complaint with Haley since he's taken over showed up in this game too, but I also think Ben is to blame. Third, fourth, and short, and that also applies to the red zone. Cuteness is only once in a while as opposed to the standard. Having a quarterback sneak or putting Nix and Hubbard in the game and just getting a yard. Just do that from time to time, and I think Ben has a lot to do with it.
They were lined up to do that on the first one.
And Ben checked out.
The first one, they had Nix on the field.
Mm-hmm.
It's fourth and short. They had the extra tight end on the field. The Jaguars only had 10 guys on the field,
and they called
the timeout.
Okay.
And then the Steelers talked about it on the sidelines, and you had Tomlin, Haley, and Ben, and they came out of the huddle with that. They came out of that huddle with that pitch play.
That just didn't work the play before or two plays before.
Right.
To the wide side of the field. Right.
And I was told that that's a set that they have like 6 different plays off of, and that's the one that they decided on. Now, that being said, you're talking about a 15-year veteran quarterback. He has the ability to check out of that stuff.
Right. I think people blame Haley too much.
I do as well. And I would also say that any play that was called in that situation particularly, where you've had a timeout to talk about it, the head coach holds the trump card. Mm-hmm. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this.
Yes.
So I'm not quite sure, and I haven't ferreted out yet exactly who called what there, but it's not just Haley.
Oh, absolutely not.
And the second fourth down call, the ball was on Juju Smith-Schuster's hands. He dropped the ball first.
Great throw.
It was a great throw.
Yeah.
Eli Rogers was coming across the middle, like 3 yards on a crossing route, and he was open. Either one of those options would have been good. He decided to go for the deeper option against A.J. Bouye, who also got away with a hold on the play.
Yeah, he did. Pretty blatant one.
So, it happens. I thought in particular, Ben Roethlisberger said last year in the AFC Championship game that the moment was too big for some of his receivers. I thought in this situation the moment was a little too big for the 2 rookies who play a lot, T.J. Watt and Juju Smith-Schuster. Maybe they relied on those guys a little bit too much in their first playoff game because I didn't see either one of them make a lot of plays in that game.
And I get the allure. I know we got to get a break, but I get the allure of Ben coming to the line of scrimmage and saying, I have a great receiver and one-on-one with no safety help, and I know it's 4th and an inch. I have to do this. I'm Ben Roethlisberger. I'm a great quarterback. I'm athletically arrogant, and I get it. But now it's becoming too standard. I mean, just be Brady once in a while and stick your head down behind the guard and get the, the lack of quarterback sneaking is crazy to me. He's 18 of 19 in short yardage quarterback sneaks in his career, and he's a big, strong dude. Do it.
I was a little surprised, too, just enough time went off the clock before the Jags called timeout. It's 4th and inches, and the defense has 10 guys on the field. Mm-hmm. You would think you could pick that up maybe. And if you have to run a 4th down play and the defense only has 10 guys, I don't know. I think that raises your chances.
You're also
maybe
allowed to kick a
converting
field goal in that situation to make it 14-3 because they were at the 22-yard line, 23-yard line.
I would have went for it, but I think the play call is crazy. And anyone knows me, I am not a Monday blame the play calling guy. But to ask wide receivers to block linebackers and really good defensive players on a crackback toss that just didn't work to the short side of the field against the fastest defense in the league isn't a smart move. I think I've laid that out. I mean, if you want to argue with that one, fine. But that's, to me, is not a smart move. Sorry.
No, you're good. We'll look a little bit into the other matchups in the divisional round and recap what the heck happened to the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is Inside Steelers Nation on SNR. Welcome back to Inside Steelers Nation on SNR. I'm Randy Slack with Matt Williamson and Dale Lolley. This weekend, this past weekend, the Steelers had Blake Bortles versus Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger, future Hall of Fame quarterback. There's Marcus Mariota against future Hall of Famer and maybe President of the United States, Tom Brady. There was last year's league MVP, Matt Ryan, against backup quarterback and former Rams backup quarterback, Nick Foles. And in the other game, there was another future Hall of Famer, Drew Brees, against another Rams backup quarterback in Case Keenum. Guys, are we getting away from it being a quote-unquote quarterback league where it's the end-all, be-all to have a great quarterback?
No, I think it's more fluky than anything, to be very honest with you. I think this time of year has proven over and over that stud pocket passers rule the day. I think a lot of that was circumstantial. I mean, if there's not a crazy Diggs play at the end of that game, Drew Brees is future Hall of Famer.
Or if the New Orleans defensive guy decides instead of trying to play the ball, how about tackling the guy after the catch?
Ducking your
with
head
no time left.
Right. Ducking your
Just
head and taking
him
out the other corner in the process. Yeah. Maybe that would have helped, or at least look at the guy you're trying to hit. Or
you're in that situation,
him.
And maybe you want to have your safeties 40 yards off the ball. And just,
right. Only one thing can hurt
tackle the catch.
It was an awful football play by him. Right. Yeah, but no, I don't think so. But I do think winning at the line of scrimmage, running the football, especially in cold weather, is more important now than ever. I retweeted a stat, something along the lines of these are 3 of the 4 best defenses in the league. Yeah. And over the last couple of years, the best couple defenses end up in the postseason. That no great quarterback play isn't more or less important than ever. But I do think there is something to defense and running games win championships.
To me, just watching what happened this past weekend in the divisional round, it should make teams a little more cautious of just saying, hey, we need a good quarterback, so let's throw all of our money at Kirk Cousins. Because you really do need a lot of stuff around.
Yeah.
You can't just have a quarterback anymore. There are really good defenses left. I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars,
Philly.
Minnesota Vikings are 1A, 1B when it comes to top defenses, and Brady's probably going to have to play both of them.
Yeah, and I think the Eagles are probably the 3rd best defense in the league. And they won that game. Atlanta's offense has struggled lately, but Philly, to me, won that game because they were the more physical team. They won at the line of scrimmage both phases. And there's something to be said for that. Obviously, if I'm team building, I would absolutely love to have a great quarterback. But next on my list is control the line of scrimmages. I would build around defensive linemen, as Philly has.
Do you feel any better about the Eagles' chances after them beating the Atlanta Falcons next week against the Vikings?
Because I really thought they were going to get beat and they had no chance to move on. I think that's a really tough place to play, and I give those fans a lot of credit. And it's cold and it's nasty, and they're good on both lines of scrimmage. And I think the biggest weakness the Vikings have right now isn't the quarterback position, but it's offensive line again. They're starting to get banged up. And we saw that against the Saints D-line, where the Eagles D-line is a totally different beast than the Saints D-line.
Yeah, and they're not going to have the dome this week. The Vikings home field was, definitely a factor. They were loud. They were a raucous crowd, and they'll be outdoors, which early weather reports say, 30s at night, nothing major, no precipitation. It's not like it's going to be that sort of issue for the Vikings. But they are going to be playing on the road, and they're going to be playing outside.
Yeah, and this will be the only time they get to go on the road in this postseason if they do in fact win. So it's going to be interesting. I thought that Atlanta would win that game as well last week, and wasn't able to get it done, but they were throwing into the end zone with a chance to win, and
right.
Julio Jones just didn't come down with the football.
I mean, really, Atlanta and the Saints were one play away to having totally different games. The NFC could be a lot different if there's some fluky things didn't happen. So they were all pretty evenly matched, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm excited for both of the championship games. Obviously, we would much rather the Pittsburgh Steelers be involved, but I don't think it's going to be just an absolute cakewalk for the Patriots.
I kind of lean that it will.
I don't know. Like on with the Jags defense, they gave up 42 points, but it was perfect
they still were good.
Throws.
Right.
It was perfect catches. I don't know if Hogan's going to make or Brandon Cooks are going to make the same plays that Antonio Brown was able to make if Ramsey and Bouye are draped all over him like they were this last weekend.
No, I think you're 100% right. And again, if I'm Brady and Belichick, the defense I want to see last in this league is Jacksonville, because you can't really out-scheme them all that much.
Right, yeah, you can't trick. You're not going to trick them because they run pretty vanilla stuff.
Right, and if you look at the defense all week, like if they played the Steelers, they would look at things and be like, well, we're going to try to get guys on the Steelers inside linebackers, or we have this advantage that we like. When you game plan against the Jags D, I don't think there's something you pick out and say we're going there. There's not a glaring weakness.
Maybe you try to get Puzzlesny matched up against your running backs.
If he's even in the game.
Yeah, if he's even in the game. Otherwise, you get Telvin Smith against your running backs.
Yeah.
You're not liking that.
No, absolutely. I mean, Gronk against Church favors Gronk, but he's not a terrible player. It's
or do you try to use Telvin Smith against Gronk?
See, what I would do is I would totally scrap it and say, Jalen, you got Gronk. And we're playing man across the board. And
you can do that when they split them out wide. But that's not what they do. Can you do that when they put them in line?
See, that's exactly how they would counter them. Yeah. And then they would come out with heavy personnel, and Jalen Ramsey would have to get off Gronk blocks while you run with the fullback and 22 personnel, and that's how they change it.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. That's the wild card that he gives them. Because you can put him, you can split him out wide, and if you put the little guy on him out wide, he's gonna beat him up.
Throw it to him.
Yeah, right. And if you put him in line because the little guy's winning against him out there, now
he's gonna push him 10 yards down the field.
Exactly. So I mean, he is a matchup problem.
And Brady handles it so well too.
One thing that was lost in the Steelers in the game yesterday was the emergence of Vance McDonald.
Love it. Yeah.
I mean that's what you expected to see.
Yep.
This season from that guy. I mean, he had some injuries, and it took him some time to warm up to this. I think rolling into next season, my God, if they get him going with everything else that they got, I mean, it really is a scary offense. That you want to see every move made this offseason to fix that defense.
Yes, I mean, I 100% agree. The tight end position I thought was going to be a weakness, something to address this offseason. Loved the McDonald pickup and had hope, and I've been talking him up all year. And now I look at it and think tight end could be a strength. I mean, it might be a positive aspect. I might pick up a running back in the draft.
Well, yeah, I think you still have to look at that.
Third round.
Maybe even a receiver, depending on Martavis' situation.
I don't know if there's enough room on the roster for him this year. I think that might be next year's job.
Okay.
I mean, maybe if there's a quarterback you absolutely love, but that's set aside. The only thing on offense I would address is somebody to push Connor or maybe be Bell's replacement a year from now.
Yeah, I would look at that as well. Here's an interesting question for you guys. I just saw this
There's
Fox.
So much roster space for new guys.
There isn't. But
maybe they trade up in the draft.
I think
you
can create some roster space.
Mitchell's the guy I'd get rid of.
Yeah, Gay's not going to be back. Mitchell's not going to. So there's a couple of spots there. The Minnesota play yesterday.
Yeah.
Fox NFL is saying, is that the number one playoff play of all time? End to a postseason game. There's this little play called the Immaculate Reception that was a little more exciting than that one.
See, to me, that was a bad play by a guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that if you analyze that play.
It was a walk-off, and so therefore you look at it and you say, okay, that was a great play.
Right. But if that's 1st and 10 in the second quarter, you say that safety stinks. What's he doing? And he's actually a good player. To me, that was a bad play by a guy that they capitalized on.
That was a really fun last 2 minutes.
It was.
Yeah,
just
it was.
because, the Vikings get it, and they're like, all right, and then Drew Brees comes right down the field like Drew Brees is going to do.
We left too much time for Drew.
Yeah, there's
But
time.
that's not a better ender than the Immaculate Reception. That's not a better ender than the Music City Miracle.
No.
No, it's not a better ender than the Tyree catch or the Santonio Holmes catch.
How different is that ending? How much different is that than Tebow's throw to Demaryius Thomas? It's just a guy got open and ran down the field.
I mean, safety blew it.
Yeah, just a guy made a really – that's what I do on Madden. I'll try to do the hit stick, and then my guy kind of dives to the side and totally misses the receiver. That's why I just let the computer run defense because
You're
I
talking
can't
over my
can't
head,
play
but
defense.
I'm shaking my
I can't tackle
and that's
guys.
to me, Madden is the reason why everybody thinks they're an offensive coordinator now.
Yeah.
They all
because
think
it works on
Yeah.
Madden, huh?
I mean, everybody thinks they can call the plays. Well, that worked for me on Madden. Oh,
Dale, I'm going to stream one of my games online for you. You can see my play calling.
And everybody thinks they can
Acumen.
manage the clock as well. Well, I do it well on Madden. It's a little
Not the
different
same.
Speaking of
than having 70,000 screaming fans and you're.
And you can't hit pause and think about it.
No.
Speaking of managing the clock, the onside kick.
I see. I didn't think that was a good call. I thought that they should have kicked it deep. They had 2 timeouts left. There was 2:18 remaining in the game. I understand Mike's thinking there. They hadn't gotten a stop, but they had gotten a couple of stops in that period. To me, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Matt, the Jaguars were not going to throw the ball in that situation.
No.
The only thing that they could have done was have Bortles roll out with you're going to run the ball.
They don't trust him
unless
enough to throw the
somebody's
football
really
in that
wide
situation.
open.
Right.
Yeah. So stop Fournette 3 times, punt the ball. You're going to get the ball back at the 30 at worst, and you've got a minute and 40 seconds to go the length of the field with Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, check my Twitter feed. I said it going into that, and I think my tweet was obviously you kick it deep here.
Yeah.
And then they did, and I'm like,
I
what
said
are
the
you
same
doing?
thing. I just didn't get it.
There was 2 things I was very critical of, and you can document it on Twitter. It was that, and you got to call the timeout before the 2-minute warning. You don't let 18 seconds just tick off. To me, that was very poor clock management. And I've been critical of Tomlin for a while in terms of clock management. I don't think that's a specialty of his at all.
I will say this, and I watch a lot of practice. People saying that the Steelers don't work on onside kicks and that kind of stuff. They do all the time.
I'm sure they do. What else does that kicker do? Right.
It didn't work right. It was not well executed.
That being said, I've never seen. I don't know that he's good at it. I think he's a great
I've seen
kicker.
him do it. I've seen him do it in practice.
Okay.
And it bounces perfectly.
Yeah.
But the ball's not round.
Right. And I just said this to Adam.
On a frozen turf that they're doing it. Well, put it this way: when I see them do it, they're doing it in perfect conditions. They're so it's not the same as doing it on a frozen field that's been run on for the last 3 hours. And it's just a low.
And many of us remember the behind the leg thing that didn't work so good.
Yeah, and if that works, it's great. If it doesn't, you're going to get killed for it. But it's a low percentage play. Period.
That's what I've been saying.
Yeah.
I said to Adam, like, if he's the best onside kicker that's ever lived, you still only get that 10, 15% of the time.
Right.
I mean, that's a very low percentage.
And
play.
they only had to go, because of the illegal touching, they only had to go 9 yards to get a field goal.
Right. They were in field goal range.
Right. Basically when they were at the 36.
And instead, and this is hindsight, but if it goes the exact same way, you get the ball probably at your own 40 with some timeout, or even not, with a chance to win the game.
Right.
With a 3 and out. That was a very bad decision, in my opinion.
Mike Tomlin talks about that and more. We'll also hear from Ben Roethlisberger next. This is Inside Steelers Nation on SNR.